Much love from the mushroom. It's Dan and Jer on the Dan and Jer show. I like much love from the mushroom. Think that's the name for now. Hope you guys had a beautiful weekend. I did. I think Dan did too. We actually were both at Long Beach Island. Different places, different times, but we were both there. Pretty cool. It is July 12th. It is a beautiful day. Summer is in full swing. COVID is gone in America. The rest of the world seems to be still struggling with it. Seems like it might come back in America too. Who knows? The news is crazy. Don't know what to believe anymore. But you do have to check in once in a while and just see what they're talking about. So it's pretty interesting to see. But what I want to talk about a little bit today, I feel like Dan just we've both talked, I think, a little bit before about like the Fadiman protocol, the Stamets protocol, different ways of microdose scheduling: 1 day on, 2 days off, 5 days on, 2 days off. But we don't have really a name for it. I'm gonna call it the calendar schedule. But we've alluded a little bit of like you do that schedule for a month or two with an intent. Then it's nice to take a week or two off. You kind of realize how much the mushrooms helped you when you take the week or two off, and like, oh wow, like I'm pretty irritated again, or my energy's low, or I'm not sleeping as well. So it gives you that reassurance, and it also helps you set new intentions. So I wanted to ask Dan, you took your 2 weeks off and now started, you were doing Fadiman, I believe, took 2 weeks off, and now you're doing the Stamets protocol. How's that been? What's it been like?
So I did, yeah, I was doing Fadiman, took 2 weeks off. Totally agree with what you're saying. Like I noticed like mild irritability, especially the first week. Think you're just, renormalizing like just a little bit of mild irritability. Found myself getting pissed off at stuff I would before, just like petty, irrelevant things, and
Mm-hmm.
was just tunnel visioning a little harder than I would otherwise. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think the breaks are necessary because it allows you to check in with like your natural issues that you would have had without microdosing, because a lot of the time microdosing helps kind of you know alleviate it or shine a light on some of the things and stuff, and then when you go without it, then you realize like, oh, certain things are still here, these are still things I need to work on, and then those might be the things you put more attention to in the next cycle or whatever like that. So I noticed, yeah, just like I've always had the Irish and Italian in me. I've always had a little bit of a temper, so like I just
Mm-hmm.
noticed like, yeah, like the temper arising and finding myself angry over stupid shit. And then I was like, which is good though, because it allowed me to kind of check in with those emotions sober and be like, why are they there? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you need to, because eventually you got to get to the root cause, which mushrooms can help with sometimes. But I tried the stamets for like a week, but for me it just feels like too much. I don't know.
Mm.
I like, it's enjoyable. It wasn't bad or anything like that, but I just for some reason felt like it wasn't sustainable for me personally. Like I had so much energy consistently that I feel like I was like not kind of sleeping enough, or like maybe wearing myself a little bit thin. Especially I'm someone, I'm pretty big into fitness and stuff.
Right.
I noticed that when I microdose, if like I'm incredibly strong, I have a bunch of endurance. I feel like my workouts are way better. But then I also feel like I'm pushing past what my limits kind of should be
Mm.
a little more. So I notice sometimes the days I microdose, I'll get the craziest workouts in, but then I'll be sore for like 2 or 3 days after that because I like, kind of went a little harder than I should have or would have normally.
Right.
Um, so I mean, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's just they're helping me get, in I'm in the growth stage in those workouts, and anytime you're sore for a couple of days, that means you did something right, so, as well. But
Yeah, it doesn't sound like
yeah,
a
for
bad
me the
thing.
stamets just seems a little bit overwhelming for me personally. So I think I'm just gonna stick to the Fadiman.
Right. Yeah, I like that. And I mean, I think too, as you get more and more experience, anyone, not just you,
Yeah.
the Stamets protocol is good to follow, or Fadiman's protocol is good to follow to have a schedule. But eventually, if you just kind of do it as needed, um, I think that's like what a lot of people typically go towards. So I don't really follow a schedule. It's something I feel like I should a little bit more. But I generally probably take it about 3 or 4 times a week. But I don't track it. I kind of like, there's a day I want a little bit to delve into my thoughts or have a little extra energy, and then there's some days where I'm like, I want to be completely sober, reset, and all that. Did you have a new intention when you started this new cycle, though?
Honestly, I wasn't as thoughtful as I should have been about it. I don't think. I mean, general intentions though, because it was after I had taken a vacation and stuff. So I think a lot of the general intention in my life right now that it was kind of aligned with that was listening to my own intuition has been a big theme of like me kind of neglecting some of my feelings or neglecting my own internal monologue, and then I wind up getting screwed over. I wind up putting myself in a position that's uncomfortable because I could have just listened to how I was feeling and saved myself a lot of strife. So I think for me, a big theme over the next couple months is just intuition, listening to the things I know, and kind of being the natural leader that I am. I've noticed like I've been hanging out with more and more group settings and like larger groups and friends of friends and mutual friends. And a lot of the times it's like I don't want to be overly domineering in a group of people that I don't know super well or be like, oh, this is what we're gonna do, and just like
Mm.
hijack the whole vibe. But I also realized on my last trip that a lot of the time people hang out with me because they like that I'm someone who takes initiative, that I put the first foot forward, and that I'm a good planner. And when I plan things, they kind of go in a very organized fashion and things like that. So I caught myself demonizing my own intuition and my own like will a little bit and being like, oh, let me just silence myself because like there's other people around. And it's like, no, well, even if they disagree, at least let those thoughts come out, and give other people the chance to reply and give their insights. And one little side anecdote, sorry, going back real quick
You're
to the
good.
Stamets. I was also doing the Stamets protocol with sort of more of like a 200 milligram
Mm.
ground up. So I think if it was like an 80 milligram type like to 100 or something like that, I think it would have been more sustainable. But the capsules I had were just like a stronger dose. I didn't have any of the lower dosage ones, so I think that might have been a big factor in it, is because it was like they were crossing the threshold of being subperceptual just barely, but it was like that's why I felt like it was a little bit almost giving me minor anxiety, because it was like every day I was having like mini micro trips almost.
Yeah, no, that could be a lot. Where I would like to actually explore more, and every time I explore, there's something that I haven't been doing enough of is like note taking and really
Right,
documenting everything. But I would be interesting to experiment with the amount I'm taking and the times I'm taking. So for
right.
the first time that I like can remember, at least I took a second like half dose in the afternoon, which I had
Mm,
never done before. And I was a little bit susceptible to it, or I don't think that's the right word. I can't speak right now, but I wasn't really wanting to stay up so late, so that's why I usually just do it in the morning because it gives me a lot of energy. But it actually helped me, I feel, sleep better that night. I
mm,
slept like great. It was cool. I took like maybe half of a 7H, so like a very little bit amount, but in the
mm,
afternoon, and I kind of liked that, where it's cool and it's good and bad. I feel that there's not a lot of information or videos or people who've done all of these techniques, so there's not much you can go to learn about it. But it's also nice too because you can kind of learn on your
create
own
your
and
own. Yeah,
figure it out and be like, okay, this actually works for me. There's not actually, I guess part of the reason being there's no preconceived notions that are telling you like this is how you have to do it. So you kind of just do it and see what works for you, um,
yeah.
which I like. So yeah, I've been experimenting a little bit more with like how much I'm taking and then what time of day I'm taking, and those variables as well. Um, which I guess you alluded to a little bit. Maybe what you should have done, not trying to tell you what to do, but changed one of the variables. Not. It sounds
Right.
like you changed like two or three variables at once. Um,
Yeah, I wasn't following the scientific process properly. You got to do one variable in experiments for sure. I
exact.
And going back to what you're saying of like kind of finding your own what works for you, is like I was talking to someone who was pretty knowledgeable about microdosing, who's doing it. They've been doing it for themselves for a while, but they don't like have capsules. They just grind it up and take whatever feels right for them. And
Mm,
I was telling someone else in a group, being very scientific. I'm like, this is the Fadiman protocol. This is the
yeah.
Stamets protocol, and blah blah blah. And the dude was like, kind of checked me a little bit. I loved his response. He's like, just take them when they call to you and when you need them. He's like, I
Yeah.
don't. It doesn't have to be. And I was like, well, yeah. I was like, it's a good. I was kind of using it more as like a template or a starting point to explain to someone who was less knowledgeable. And he cut in. And he's like, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
He's like, whenever it feels right, whenever your soul tells you to. That's how I do it, at least. And I started cracking up. I was like, you know what? I yield to that. You're right.
Yeah, I go back and forth with both of them because like I'm more of the opinion of like take it as when they are calling to you and when you need it, but at the same time most people I feel need a template at least to like to have a starting point or know what's going on. I know we both get microdoses from Mushmore.
hmm
I know that they don't give instructions with their microdoses. I think it's probably partially intentional because it's like it's kind of illegal, but at the same time, there's definitely people who want to know what the instructions are, like how to take them. Might not be that they follow them exactly forever, but it's a good starting point just to like have an idea. Because
Yeah, and I think
go ahead.
I think the having a schedule. I'm just someone, that's me. That's just how I work. I'm very like neurotic and like scheduling anyway, so that it makes sense. But in that Michael Pollan interview I was talking about last week, one of the things he says about like just drug use in general, whether it's anything, your coffee, anything, he said people that follow rituals are much more likely or much less likely to fall into patterns of abuse when they're treating it in a kind of a ritualistic, intentioned way. So I do think that is also good because it's like, well, whenever they call to me, it's like, well, that could be 10 times a day if you start going down that alley, and then that's completely going backwards. And then like I don't think these should be a substance that should be treated in that type of way. And like, you know, if you start abusing them, I feel like they're gonna have negative reactions, or they're gonna make you have a bad time if you start getting out of control with that. So that's why I personally like to just kind of keep that ritualistic, intentioned. I mean, you look at traditional ceremonies of plant medicine; it's a lot of order in it. So yeah,
definitely, I agree, and that reminds me a little bit actually of so I grew up Jewish. I went to like Jewish camps growing up where you you have to say prayers before you like eat anything. Like, and if you eat bread, you say this prayer. You eat water, you this prayer, whatever. And I guess similar to like Christians do grace. And I never understood it growing up. I was like, why do you have to say a prayer before you eat everything? Like, it seems a little bit much. But the last couple of years, I actually like it had a big aha moment, and it makes a lot of sense to me now. Is it's making your food intentional and making you like know or like think about eating. And I think that's a big problem in America and probably a lot of the world is no one thinks about what they're eating or why they're eating. They just eat because it's because the food's calling to them, like your guy. And it's like, no, like actually maybe you should have an intent of what you're eating. I'm eating fruit because I need some energy. I'm eating peanuts because it's going to help me digest. I don't know if peanuts help you digest, but whatever. But like I feel like it's good to like, when you eat something, to have a reason for why you're eating it, not just to fulfill this hunger that's not even real hunger. It's probably because you're bored and you just want something to do. Where I like that idea of having a ritual or intention for everything. When you set that intention or have a ritual for mushrooms, I agree completely. You're going to be way less likely to abuse it. You're going to know why you're doing it every time, which I think is good.
Yeah.
What's it called? I guess that is about it. I could ramble. We both could ramble all day, but I think that is a good little end point for what we were talking about. Basically saying kind of following a schedule, following a protocol, following a calendar, whatever it might be. But I think like tracking it is important, and then also changing one variable at a time, not too many variables, and like knowing what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and going with it. And also maybe not giving up right away if something doesn't work out, but like trying to change it up and keeping
it's
at
sort
it.
of like we were talking a couple of weeks ago about therapy. It's sort of like similar to that almost. It's like, well, if your first therapist sucks, it's like that doesn't mean therapy as a whole is bad. It's maybe that method of therapy, or that, you know, the way they approach it, or whatever, the timeline of when you're going to therapy. There's so many different variables. So I think it's sort of like that too. I mean, mushrooms kind of, they feel like a plant therapist. They kind of lead you to where you need to go. So you got to experiment. You got to find the right therapist and the right, you know, way to that it works with you. So
definitely, and which another conversation we kind of have talked about just reminds me of like the regulation and trying to all these companies trying to like patent different things. I feel like it's good in a way, but also we've said why it's bad in a way. Why it could be good in a way though is because like the mushroom microdoses we think we get a certain strain, but you don't know if that strain quality or content is the same every time. The psilocybin might be a little higher sometimes, might be a little lower. You don't really know, where it's hard to have your own experiments and change variables when you don't know everything about it. So as it gets more popular, as there's like more products, more availability,
more quality control,
quality control, you'll know like, okay, when I take 80 milligrams of psilocybin of the penis envy strain, it makes me feel like this. But if I take 90 milligrams of the golden teacher, I'm actually like perfect, or whatever it might be.
Right.
But Thank you, Dan. Awesome time talking to you. I'm excited to talk to you already for next week. Like,
Yes,
subscribe.
sir.
Anyone who's listening, give us some ideas for what to talk about, or if you want to be on, talk about your microdose journey. We would love to hear about that. That would be something fun to do. So thank you as always. Much love from the mushroom.
Much
Peace
love.
out.